I began my miniature with an undercoat of Thornwood Green by P3. I airbrushed it on, but you can sponge it on or brush it on, whichever you prefer. I got this miniature printed from Etsy. It's from DMG Minis. I didn't do a great job cleaning it. I'm not a 3D printer, so it's just some inexperience with those artifacts. We're going to start off with our pants and cloak, and we're going to be doing a desaturated green that's somewhat similar to the ones you see in the Carcass Front minis, which will be coming out soon. And we're going to start that by combining our Thornwood Green with Two Thin Coat's Contagion Green. And despite the mixture of our dark color, you can already see it brightening up. For areas such as this back leg or even the back of the mini, you can mix in more of that Thornwood Green and just overall keep it darker because there's no sun hitting it. Next, we'll be moving on to pure Contagion Green. This is going to be even a brighter contrast than our previous mixture to the base coat, and it's actually surprising how bright it gets so quickly. And because it's such a big change, you want to go slow. Take your time and make your adjustments as you move on. You don't have to saturate the entire thing. You can brighten up those areas that are important first and then work your way down. For example, down here we're doing less highlighting. We're not saturating it as much because there's less light hitting here. And this is highlighting in volumes, which I admit is something that I can do better at. Next, we'll move on to the first highlight color of that triad, and that's going to be Zombie Rot. And as you highlight more, you just want to get more and more refined. This is, once again, a very bright color, so the more you do, the more bright it's going to be, and you don't necessarily want that. Contrast is extremely important in making these minis look good. And just because we did less highlighting down on these pants doesn't mean we're completely done. We still want to do some small highlights with this brighter color. Finally, we'll move on to the brightest color of that triad, which is Pestilence Green. And this color is so bright, we're going to do the most minute highlighting with it. Small dot stippling highlights. Catch the important edges, catch the bottom of tattered parts of clothing where light would hit, but just be subtle about it. With that coat finished, I applied my desaturated non-metallic metal gold recipe onto it. I didn't show it off because I already have a video on it. Please go watch it. I did the filigree on the chest as well as the chains. Followers of Mammon are known to have gold chains, and they're also known to have gold masks, which I'm working on now. And for that, I'm going to do a saturated non-metallic metal gold. This will make it more striking and stand out from the other golds. And we're going to base it with Royal Cloak by Two Thin Coats. This color will give some warmth. For NMM, it's important to decide where your light is coming from, and I already have some light points on the chain and the brooch. So effectively, my light source will be face on from this mask. So the center is where my focus will be, but that doesn't mean we won't highlight the other areas, and for that we're going to add in some Skulker Yellow from Two Thin Coats, and we'll highlight a large portion of the mask, but leave some of that side darker just to add some contrast. We will continue highlighting on with the same mixture, but adding more Skulker Yellow, so it'll be about 75% of the mixture. And we'll highlight in roughly the same areas, but leaving even more of that area darker just for more contrast. Next, we'll take that Skulker Yellow and we'll mix in some Serpent Eye Yellow by Two Thin Coats, which is a pretty bright, kind of ice yellow, but a little less bright color, and we'll begin to highlight with that. And you don't want to highlight a whole lot with this. The more you highlight, the less the contrast will be and the less it'll pop. And with that contrast, it'll look like a shiny object. Next, we'll take pure Serpent Eye Yellow and do some light highlighting on those important areas, such as the center of the mask and those eyes, as well as the very edge of the mask. Then we'll do our last highlight, which will be Ice Yellow by AK 3rd Gen, and we'll highlight the same areas, but just doing a little less. I want to glaze in some of that warmth, so I'm going to go back in with my burgundy and make sure I have a nice glaze consistency by checking on my thumb. And then we will start to glaze that color towards the shadows. I'll admit I let the highlights get away from me a little bit, so the contrast was kind of diluted, but this glaze does help with that. And while you're doing this, you want to at all costs avoid hitting your brightest highlights. Those should remain untinted by this burgundy. And when that glaze is dried, you can really see the contrast between it and the desaturated version, and that mask is more noticeable. And from there, we will move on to our purple, and we are going to make a desaturated purple, but despite that, I want some color in the base. So I'm going to be taking Enchantress Purple, which is a saturated color, and mixing Incubus Purple into it to create my base color. That might seem like a bit of a weird choice, but as we highlight, it'll definitely show more desaturated, but with a nice color under it. And to highlight, we will use Incubus Purple by itself. Now, as you highlight, you want to make sure your paints are thin. However, you want to make sure that it's not flooded with water, like right here. As you highlight, especially when you have flatter surfaces, you want to do some stippling and little slash marks to create some interesting textures. To move on, we will begin highlighting with Enticing Purple. And similar to the green, this is a much brighter color than the previous iteration, so you want to be careful with it. Apply too much, you'll blow out your contrast and make it too bright. Apply too little and it won't be as interesting. So take your time, apply it to those more important areas, and as you work and you identify areas you want brighter, apply it there as well. And our final highlight will be Decadent Purple by Two Thin Coats, and it's extremely bright, so you want to take your time. You want to do very, very small highlights with this. Catch the important edges, catch the bottom of your holes in your cloth. Don't go too overboard and it'll look great. For the gloves, I wanted to do something like those fancy white gloves that nobles wear. So I based the gloves in that Contagion green to keep the tone similar to the rest of the model. Then we're going to take some Warm Gray by AK 3rd Gen and highlight. And you'll go over most of the gloves with this mixture. We'll follow that up with about a 50-50 mixture of pure white with warm gray. I always like to use Bold Titanium White by Pro-Acryl, it's really good. And here you want to pick out those details, so those individual fingers, the knuckles, and really define the shape. For the bomb, I'm going to take Two Thin Coats Gung Ho Green and apply it over the majority of the shell. When I googled World War I bomb, they seem to be painted, so I'm going to stick with that. This color matches well with that Thornwood Green, so I'm using that Thornwood Green more as a base and this kind of as a highlight. And I just brush it on fairly lightly, let my brush get caught by the textures on it, and then I'll do another coat to really punch in the color in specific areas, such as where the light is catching. Next, we'll take that Gung Ho Green and mix in some AK 3rd Gen Warm Gray and begin to highlight it even further. And when you're highlighting this, you want to make sure you're applying your paint, but also mixing and blending it in with what's already there. So those stippling motions do help with that a lot. And those quick motions can take you really far with little effort. Next, we'll take some ice yellow and add it into that previous mixture, and make sure you don't have too much paint on your brush. You'll do your final highlight with this. You'll catch all those raised details at the sharpest points, but also where that light is hitting on the shell. And you can even treat this color as a sort of weathering. As the shell gets handled more, people touch it or whatever, the paint might fade, and that means it would get brighter and more desaturated like this. I continue weathering by adding some very watered down Mournfang Brown. This will act as a rust effect, and if you want to take that further, I suggest Vallejo Games Parasite Brown as well. When that's complete, I'll sponge on some fluorescent red on all those demonic markings on the bomb. And if you want the intensity brighter, just sponge on some more coats once this is dry. Following that, when it's all dry, you can take a white ink or very watered down white paint and apply it in the crevices of all those demonic markings. Get it fully in there, and if you're using paint, it might get on the edges a little bit much, and you can just wipe that away with your finger. Once that's dry, and do make sure that it is dry, we're going to take some thinned down Magma Radolf Flame contrast paint, which is a nice bright orange, and apply it over the white. The camera doesn't capture it too well, but the contrast between this and the red and the white inner part makes a really nice flamey look. And finally, my artillery witch of Mammon is complete. This is a miniature by DMG Minis. This is a pretty cool mini. I thought it was interesting and unique. It's not as iconic, obviously, as the studio artillery witch, but I thought the mask was really cool and striking and fit well with the followers of Mammon. In this tutorial, I showed you how to do some pretty basic desaturated greens and purples. And regardless of what faction you rock, I hope you find it useful and apply it somewhere. Interested in red, blues, yellows, or even that desaturated gold? Well, I've got other videos. Go check them out. They're all Trench Crusade videos, so look at my channel and find those. But I've yapped too long. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below, and I'll catch you in the next video.